All right, so what I want to talk about now is something that comes up way too often when honestly it really shouldn't, and that is how to practice. We spend a lot of time worrying about what to practice, areas of our playing that we need to develop to take our playing to the next level to become world class. But the question that I see all the time and often unanswered is, how do we practice? So what I want to share with you now is what I call my perfect practice formula. I've always been quite methodical and systemized when it comes to practice. So what I'm going to share with you is the two pieces, the two contributors to what I consider the perfect practice formula. Let's dive into it. All right, so part one of the perfect practice formula is acknowledging two things. How much time do you have, and how many pieces of information are you trying to tackle today? So let's just use 30 minutes, for example. I always say that you can get a lot done with 30 minutes. I mean, 30 minutes compounded over a year, that's a lot of time. So the power of 30 minutes should not be undervalued, okay? I know it doesn't sound like much, but if you're doing it every single day, you will see massive gains, okay? So let's just use that as our template. And then let's say that we've got 5 concepts that we want to touch on. Well, I've always just broken the time divided by the amount of things that I want to work on. So in this case, it's 30 divided by 5, and that would leave us 6 minutes apiece for every piece of information. Now, the next level of that is, say we've got these 5 things we want to work on. One of them is a little bit easier than the other 4. Great, we can allocate 1 or 2 minutes from that exercise and put it somewhere else where it might be needed more. All the things that we're working on at any given time are going to vary in terms of how difficult they are. So then it comes down to minute allocation and doing it in a smart way. If you've got 3 things that are hard, 2 things that are easy, don't give them all the same amount of time. Take some of those minutes from the easy exercises and give them to the harder ones. So this approach is just a super efficient and really smart way of using the time you've got versus how many things you're trying to work through. Now, the addition to this is that I would use a metronome. Let's say that I'm working on 16th note double pedal and I want to hit a BPM of 210. Let's just be smart about this and understand that slow and steady wins the race with this stuff, okay? So something like double pedal 16th notes is a high value ticket item, meaning that it takes a lot of work, slow burn long term, and it's going to take a lot of time as well, okay? Because it's going to give you massive gains. So just accept that going into it. Then if we want to get to that 210 and we want to do it in a relatively fast way, then what I would do and what I've done in the past is that if I've got my 30 minutes, I'm going to work on 16th notes, then it's as simple as this. Start on 150 BPM, which is a moderate full leg tempo that you can definitely do. So do 16th notes at 150. And then all we need to do is every single day for the next 60 days is bump it up 1 BPM. That 1 BPM increment you're not really going to notice, and because you're doing so much volume, you're going to be able to keep up with that change as well. Now obviously when you get to that sort of 190, 200 and 210, it's going to get harder, but all of the volume work and that slow incremental increase in tempo is going to make things so much easier when you start to try and deal with those higher tempos. Just be really, really patient. So you've got time allocation in terms of the parts versus the amount of time you want to practice, and then you've got tempo BPM adjustment 1 BPM at a time. Now, if you want to try and speed this up and do it in 30 days, totally doable. See if you can handle a 2 BPM increase. It's not much. When you get to those higher tempos, you may notice it more, but you've still got a pretty good chance if you hold that volume for 30 minutes every day and just do the work and stay on that metronome, bump it up 2 BPM, you should be able to hit that 210 as well. So it's a volume thing versus time and patience, okay? So that's the addition of part 1. Add in a BPM incrementally and do it over a good amount of time and be patient. Now I want to share with you part 2 of my perfect practice formula. And this is something that came to me a few years ago when I was actually standing at my coffee machine back in Melbourne. I was teaching a lot at the time and I was also preparing for Drumeo, and I was thinking a lot about practice and how to do it efficiently and allocation of time versus how many parts and things like that, part 1. And it sort of dawned on me that efficient practice is broken into 3 stages, okay? So like working on a new concept, it's broken into 3 different elements, and I want to share those with you now. So the first element is foundation. What is the movement? What do we need to do? What do we need to show the body that it needs to do for the next part? And this is the part where we just literally grab the sticks, and let's say that it's just 3 on the hands and 2 on the feet. So right, left, right, kick, kick. And we just do that. We just make sure we can do it. Right, left, right, kick, kick, right, left, right, kick, kick. And we just understand the timing, the distance of the notes, and make sure that it's all the same. Mechanically, we understand what the body needs to do that movement or that sticking properly, okay? That's the foundation. That's stage one. Now, stage two is what I call application. And this is actually the most important part, yet this is the part that people spend the least time. I hang out here the most, okay, because this is where the real work gets done. So in the application phase, we basically set some rules and some boundaries, and we do the work. This is where you do your reps, okay? This is where we put on a metronome and a timer, and we just lock into doing that movement, right, left, right, kick, kick, right, left, right, kick, kick, right, left, right, kick, kick, and we do not sway. We do not move away from that. We put on a podcast and we just lose our 30 minutes to doing high repetition over and over and over again. And we apply that pattern to a simple formula that we do not stray away from, okay? Like I say, this is the most important part because this is when you're just really locking in to your mind and your body what is expected of you for this pattern, okay? So this is the application phase, and this is where you should be spending, I would say, 90 to 95% of all of your time in these three phases, okay? This is the most important phase. Do not undervalue this phase because this is where you get the work done. So set up 30-minute timer, set up your metronome, you've done the foundation so you understand what the pattern is, and now do the reps. All right, so the next step, the third and final phase of this three-stage process is what I like to call exploration. So exploration for me is now we're going to move away from the application phase, the phase where we've been working within some tight rules and just doing the reps, and we're going to actually push the walls over, and now we're just going to go explore with the movement. So now that we have right, left, right, kick, kick in our arsenal, we can now sit down on the drums and start working through patterns that we already know and then apply that simple pattern to what we already know. So we're starting to stick it on. We're starting to sort of add it to things that we can already do. I call this string theory because we're stringing something that we've just started to work with and bringing it in, stringing it into our other concepts that we're already quite familiar with. So exploration. This is a creative phase. This is a phase where you're trying to sort of like move away from doing things that you are sort of restricting yourself with. It's trying to move into that more free form area, and it's about moving in and out of this pattern on demand and making sure that you can cognitively switch between doing it and not doing it, because that's real control, right? When you think about it, you can execute it, and when you don't think about it, you don't execute it. That to me is proper control or true control, okay? And that is the exploration phase, the third phase of this part of the perfect practice formula, okay? And so there we have it. We've got time versus parts, and then we just divide it, and then we're left with how many minutes per part, and then we allocate spare minutes that we may have from easy concepts to hard concepts. And then we've got this other side where it's understanding that you need to know the movements of the foundation, and then you need to spend your whole 30 minutes in the application stage, which is basically just doing the reps for that whole 30 minutes. And then after that, you've got your exploration stage, which is when you can use the concept within your ideas that you already know. So string them in. That to me is the most efficient way to have the perfect practice formula, okay? So now that you know that, go grab your sticks, go grab your practice pad, and start doing the reps. Cheers.